Hello, welcome back to a new video in the introduction to the Linux command line series. And then this is part 3 of the shell expansion series. If you have not already, you'd want to watch part 1 and part 2. And now let's get started with part 3. So I'm going to show you this interesting feature of shell expansion. So if I print echo hello world, it's going to print, what you expect. Say that I want them to be a little bit spaced out and I hit enter, I get hello world printed in the same way that it was when I executed the command this way. To help us understand what's going on, I basically wrote a replica of the echo command, but one that's within the IDE that we can breakpoint and inspect what's going on under the hood. So to pass input to it, I'm going to go to the run configuration and I'm going to type in hello world, just as we did before. And if you hit run, you get that printed as expected. But say that I add the many spaces in between and then, oops, didn't mean to do that. Hit debug. Now, just to show you a little bit of what's going on here, I've got the argument count and the argument values. So what I'm interested in is the argument values. I've got 3 arguments. So the name itself of the command, that's argument 0. Argument 1 is hello. Argument 2 is world. So arg v of 0 is the command itself. Arg v of 1 is hello, and of 2 is world. So where does the space go? It's not anywhere in the list of arguments that have been passed to either this program or the echo program. So what's going on here? So it turns out the shell looks at it and decides, okay, this is dead space and it's not necessary. If you're trying to pass 2 arguments, which is what the shell understands with this format, you're trying to pass 2 distinct arguments to a command, you don't need that many spaces in between. So I'm gonna take those spaces and shrink them and replace them with 1 space. What you can do, however, is put them in between double quotations, and that's going to ensure that the shell is no longer going to see them as 2 distinct arguments. It's going to see them as 1 argument with space in between. And if you hit enter, you're going to get the spaces in between printed. So before I move on to the next point I'm going to make around spaces in between, I'm going to introduce briefly the touch command. Touch command is a command that you'd use to create new files if they don't exist. It literally just creates an empty file. Or if the file exists, is going to basically touch it. So modify its metadata, the last modified. So that's the name, touch. And we're going to create a file called hello to just demonstrate how it works. So if you ls now, we see that we have hello in there. So I'm going to define this variable called files, a.txt and b.txt. And then I'm going to first touch files and see what's going to be executed. Notice that even though they're between quotations, I still got those to be treated as different files. So I didn't create one file called a.txt space b.txt as I would have expected when I was learning this. I would have expected that I would create a file that has this full name because obviously you have the double quotations. But no, it turns out that when you substituted that value in here, it got substituted as touch a.txt b.txt, and that created 2 files. But what if you did this? That's going to create 1 file with the name a.txt b.txt. So let's remove the files and rmb, and then let's do it again. But this time I'm going to touch files and I'll have the whole thing within double quotes. And then if I hit ls, I see that the result I expected was delivered, because even though we lost the double quotations when we had the file's value substituted here, we added outer double quotations again, and that ensured the desired output. So let me show you one more trick. I'm going to introduce a for loop here and I'll execute it. And basically what it's saying is create a variable f, and that variable f in files, and then do the following. Print f with those brackets around it for each iteration. And I'm getting this. However, I can make a slight change here, and that'll print a.txt, b.txt. So we went from 2 iterations to 1 iteration. And the reason why is because we added those double quotations. What is the reason? Let me know in the comments below if you know. I'll give you one last example before I end this video. So I'm going to touch myfile.txt, and if I ls, I get myfile.txt. I'll now define a variable with the same name, and then I'm going to rm, like remove, f. And if I hit enter, what's happening here is no such file as my, and then file.txt. So the mistake that I made is I forgot to add the double quotations, and that'll take care of removing the file for me. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you found it helpful, and if you have, give me a like, and I will see you in part 4, I think. Bye bye.